Instructor Thas's emergency alert bracelet screamed as he stared at the impossible scene. A Vorshock Predator Cub, the galaxy's most dangerous juvenile species, was curled up and snoring peacefully on top of the human teaching assistant's ungraded papers. "Emma." His voice came out strangled, barely above a whisper. "Emma, do not move." According to YouTube analytics, 99.3% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. The human glanced up from her desk, pen still in hand, looking mildly confused. Oh, you mean because of the little guy?" She gestured casually at the cub, at the killing machine, with her pen. "Yeah, he showed up about 20 minutes ago. I think he's exhausted, poor thing." Thas's 3 hearts stuttered in sequence. 20 minutes. She'd been sitting there with a creature that had killed 47 trained combat specialists in the last decade alone. 20 minutes of casual proximity to a species whose juveniles were documented as more dangerous than most adults of other predator races. "Emma, that is a Vorshock cub." He kept his voice level, fighting every instinct screaming at him to run. Their juveniles enter killing frenzy when they detect mammalian heat signatures. You are mammalian. You are warm. You are breathing near it. Well, yeah, breathing's kind of my thing. Emma smiled, and by the 7 stars, reached out and gently scratched behind the cub's auditory ridge. The creature's snoring intensified, a deep, rumbling purr that vibrated her entire desk. "He seems pretty chill about it, though. Haven't you, buddy?" The cub shifted slightly, nuzzling deeper into the stack of papers marked Xenobiology 301, Midterm Essays. Thas stabbed the emergency button on his bracelet 3 more times, sending the code for Omega-level biological threat, immediate evacuation. His hands were shaking so badly he nearly dropped his datapad. "You don't understand," he said, edging toward the door while keeping his eyes locked on the cub. "Vorshock juveniles don't sleep. They don't relax. They certainly don't allow physical contact from unknown species. Their neural pathways are hardwired for threat response. What you're doing right now, what is happening right now, violates every piece of xenobiological research we have on their species." "Huh." Emma tilted her head, considering this while absently petting the cub's scaled back. That seems like it would be really stressful for them. No wonder this little guy looked so wound up when he first came in. The office door burst open. Security Chief Vexia materialized in full combat armor, plasma rifle charged and ready, her tactical team flanking her in standard threat containment formation. She took one look at the scene and froze mid-step, her weapon lowering slightly in what Thas recognized as complete cognitive dissonance. "Chief," Thas whispered urgently. "Vorshock juvenile. Class Omega threat. The human has been in direct contact for 20 minutes. Vexia's mandibles clicked rapidly, a stress response he'd only seen twice in 15 years. "The human is touching it. I know. It's sleeping. I know. Vorshock cubs don't sleep in unfamiliar territory. They hunt. I know." Emma looked up at the armed response team crowding her doorway with an expression of polite confusion. "Hey guys, could you maybe keep it down? I just got him settled, and I've still got 12 more essays to grade before tomorrow's lecture." "Settled?" Vexia's voice pitched higher than Thas had ever heard it. "You settled a Vorshock juvenile?" "Well, yeah. He seemed really agitated when he wandered in during my office hours. All tensed up, these rapid eye movements. Breathing was super fast. Classic signs of stress overload. So I just talked to him calmly, let him sniff around a bit, and when he climbed up on my desk, I figured he was looking for a safe spot to decompress. Emma shrugged, like she was describing her morning coffee routine. Reminded me of my nephew when he gets overstimulated at birthday parties. Sometimes kids just need a quiet moment, you know. That is not a child, Kaltas said through clenched jaw muscles. That is a biologically programmed killing organism with reflexes faster than neural synapses and claws that can shred reinforced hull plating. Yeah, but he's also, clearly exhausted. Emma pointed at the cub's relaxed posture, the way its dangerous talons were fully retracted, the gentle rise and fall of its breathing. Look at him. When's the last time you guys think he actually got proper rest? Vexia was scanning the cub with her wrist-mounted bioreader, her expression growing more alarmed with each passing second. Stress hormones are low, impossibly low. Cortisol analogs barely registering. She looked up, her 4 eyes wide. Chief Instructor, according to these readings, this juvenile is experiencing what our databases classify as deep therapeutic rest. That state doesn't exist in Vorshock juveniles. It can't exist. Their adrenal systems don't allow for it. Well, clearly they do allow for it, Emma said, because he's doing it right now on my homework. The cub chose that moment to stretch in its sleep, one clawed paw extending to rest against Emma's forearm. The entire tactical team raised their weapons. Emma didn't even flinch. Easy there, trigger fingers, she said with a slight laugh. He's just stretching. You guys are way more worked up than he is. Kaltas felt his worldview cracking like stressed crystal. He'd spent 30 years studying xenobiology. He'd written the primary textbook on predator species behavioral patterns. He'd personally advised the Galactic Council on Vorshock juvenile containment protocols. And this human, this teaching assistant who'd been hired 6 months ago, was casually violating every single principle he'd established. Emma, he said carefully, I need you to understand the severity of this situation. We have documented cases of Vorshock juveniles killing trained Vorshock handlers. Their own species can't safely interact with their young without extensive protective measures and sedation protocols. What you're doing right now should be impossible. Emma glanced down at the peacefully sleeping cub, then back at Kaltas. Okay, but it's not impossible. Because, it's happening. She smiled apologetically. Maybe your protocols are just really bad? Vexia's communicator crackled to life. Chief, we've initiated campus-wide lockdown, all students and faculty evacuating to safe zones. Vorshock Embassy has been contacted and... The voice on the other end paused. Chief, the embassy is requesting immediate visual confirmation. They don't believe our report. I don't believe our report either, Vexia muttered, her eyes still locked on the bioreader. Send them the live feed from my helmet cam. Emma continued grading an essay, her pen making soft scratching sounds against the paper. The cub's purring intensified, a deep thrumming that made the pens in her desk cup vibrate. Oh, you like that sound, don't you? She said softly to the creature. It's soothing, right? Repetitive noises help with anxiety. Kaltas watched in horror as Emma drew a red circle around a particularly poorly cited paragraph. The cub's ear, if you could call the serrated auditory protrusion an ear, twitched toward the sound. According to every study, every documented observation, that twitch should have been followed by a strike reflex. The cub should have lunged at the moving pen, at Emma's hand, at her throat. Instead, it snuggled deeper into the stack of papers and resumed snoring. How did it even get in here? Vexia demanded, her tactical team now positioned in a semicircle around Emma's desk, weapons trained but clearly uncertain about what they were aiming at. Through the door, I assume? Emma looked up with a confused smile. He wandered in during my office hours. I was helping a student with their lab report on Thalaxian reproductive cycles. Pretty dry stuff, honestly. And I saw this little guy peeking around the doorframe. He looked really stressed out. So after my student left, I just let him come in. You let it in, Kyle Thas repeated slowly, his translator struggling with the casual nature of her words, as if surely it must be interpreting something incorrectly. Well, yeah. He seemed like he needed a safe space. Emma shrugged. I turned off the overhead lights, because they were probably too bright for him, spoke quietly, and just went back to grading. He explored the office for a bit, sniffed my coffee mug, checked out the bookshelf, and then he just climbed up here and crashed. You gave a Vorshock juvenile a safe space, Vexia said flatly. Is that bad? Emma asked. I mean, he seemed tired, so I let him nap. That's pretty normal, right? No, Kyle Thas and Vexia said simultaneously. Kyle Thas's datapad chimed with an incoming emergency transmission. The Dean of Xenobiological Studies appeared on screen, her crystalline features vibrating with agitation. Kyle Thas, I'm reviewing the security footage now with 3 separate Vorshock behavioral experts. They're all saying the same thing. This is impossible. The juvenile's body language, the hormone readings, the human's continued survival. None of this aligns with any documented behavior pattern. I'm aware, Dean. The Vorshock Embassy is sending their senior biology specialist and a warrior caste parent recovery team, ETA 12 minutes. The Dean's image flickered. They're also threatening to file formal complaints about inadequate containment protocols. Apparently, we're supposed to have triple reinforced barriers and sedation systems in place for any potential juvenile encounter. We do have those systems, Vexia interjected. In the specialized xenobiology containment labs. This is a teaching assistant's office in the humanities wing. Emma perked up. Wait, someone's coming to get him. Oh, good. I was starting to worry about his parents. Can I finish grading these essays first? I've only got 5 more, and they're due back to students tomorrow morning. Kyle Thus stared at her. You want to finish grading while sitting beneath a creature that represents an Omega-level biological threat? I mean, I'm not beneath him. He's on my desk. Emma picked up another essay. And honestly, he's way less threatening than some of the late-night emails I get from students asking for deadline extensions. At least he's quiet. The cub shifted, one eye opening lazily to observe Emma's grading. Its pupil, designed for tracking fast-moving prey in low-light conditions, focused on her hand with predatory precision. Every security officer tensed. Emma drew a smiley face on an essay that had properly cited all sources. Good job, whoever you are, she murmured. The cub's eye closed again, and it resumed snoring. Chief Instructor, Vexia said quietly, her voice tight with controlled panic. The cub's stress hormones should be spiking right now. It's surrounded by unfamiliar species in an enclosed space with multiple armed individuals present. Every single environmental factor should be triggering its hunting mode. Instead, she held up her bioreader. Instead, its nervous system is producing what I can only describe as contentment markers. Its muscles are completely relaxed. It's in a state that our databases don't even have terminology for. Contentment, Kyle Thas said numbly. The closest equivalent our systems can find is post-feeding satisfaction. But it hasn't eaten. It's just... Vexia gestured helplessly at Emma. It's just lying there, being petted. Emma had gone back to grading, occasionally reaching over to scratch the cub's scales while reading through a particularly dense paragraph about enzymatic processes. The cub's purring had settled into a steady rhythm that seemed to synchronize with Emma's breathing. Kael'thas felt something fundamental shift in his understanding of xenobiology. Something that couldn't be explained by research, by protocols, by 3 decades of accumulated scientific knowledge. Maybe, Emma said without looking up. Your species just never tried being, calm around them. The door to Emma's office slid open with more force than necessary. A Vorshock adult entered, shorter than most species, but radiating an intensity that made Vexia's tactical team instinctively step back. This was Xilax, the embassy's senior biology specialist, his scaled hide marked with the deep purple patterns of the scholar caste. He took one look at the sleeping cub, and his crest flattened completely against his skull. A Vorshock expression of absolute shock. That is impossible, he said in flawless galactic standard. Juveniles don't have nap behavior. Their neural architecture doesn't support voluntary rest states. They hunt or they hide. There is no third option. Well, someone should probably tell him that, Emma said, nodding at the cub sprawled across her homework. Because he's definitely doing option 3 right now. Xilax moved closer, his movements careful and precise. He pulled out a scanning device that looked far more sophisticated than anything Vexia carried. Theta wave patterns, he muttered, reading the display. Deep restorative cycle. Muscle tension at minimum sustainable levels. This is... He looked up at Kael'thas with something approaching fear in his eyes. This is the biological state our species enters after successful territory establishment and threat elimination. But juveniles can't achieve this state. They lack the neurological development. It shouldn't manifest until they're at least 4 solar cycles old. How old is this one? Emma asked, genuinely curious. Based on scale pattern and size, approximately 1.3 cycles. Xilax's scanning device beeped insistently, which makes this even more impossible. Kael'thas pulled up the security footage on his datapad, projecting it against the wall. We've been reviewing the initial contact. Perhaps that will provide some answers. The footage showed Emma at her desk, helping a student. The timestamp read 47 minutes ago, longer than Kael'thas had initially thought. In the hallway outside, barely visible in the frame, the cub appeared, moving with the characteristic jerky wariness of a juvenile predator in unfamiliar territory. The student left. Emma organized some papers. The cub crept closer to the doorway. Then Emma looked up and smiled. Oh, hey buddy, rough day? The cub froze. Every muscle in its small body went rigid. Yeah, I feel that, Emma continued in that same gentle, conversational tone. This place can be pretty overwhelming. You want to come in? No pressure. The cub took one hesitant step forward, then another. Its threat assessment posture gradually softened as Emma went back to grading, deliberately not looking directly at it, keeping her movements slow and predictable. Within 3 minutes, the cub had climbed onto her desk. Within 5, it was asleep. Xilax watched the footage twice more, his crest rising and falling in agitation. This contradicts everything. Our juveniles are triggered by mammalian warmth. She's mammalian. They respond to breathing sounds with hunting reflexes. She's breathing. They interpret direct visual attention as threat assessment. She made eye contact. Every single factor should have activated its kill response. Yeah, he seems to like when I breathe, Emma said with a slight laugh. That's pretty standard, though. Most living things do better when the creatures around them are breathing. Less stressful that way. You don't understand, Xilax said, his voice rising. Our protocols exist because our juveniles are dangerous. Every species in the galaxy maintains distance barriers and sedation requirements when interacting with Vorshock young. These aren't arbitrary rules, they're survival necessities. Emma looked thoughtful, tapping her pen against her desk. Okay, but did anyone ever consider that maybe treating them like dangerous threats is why they act like dangerous threats? The silence in the office was absolute. I mean, Emma continued, when he first showed up, he was clearly stressed and overstimulated. Probably been in high alert mode his entire short life, right? That's exhausting. So I just used the same tone I use with my nephew when he gets cranky and overwhelmed. Let him choose how close he wanted to be. Didn't make sudden movements or loud noises. Gave him space to feel safe. She shrugged. Just basic tired creature management. Kyle Thus felt his entire academic foundation crumbling. You're saying you treated a Vorshock juvenile like a tired child. I mean, he is a child, a tired one. Emma gestured at the peacefully sleeping cub. Look at him. When's the last time he felt safe enough to actually rest? When's the last time anyone around him was calm? Zilax's scanning device slipped from his hands, clattering against the floor. The cub's ear twitched, but didn't wake. Our entire species' approach to juvenile care, he said slowly, is based on threat containment protocols. Maximum security, constant vigilance, sedation when necessary. We treat our own children as biological hazards that must be controlled. That sounds really stressful, Emma said quietly, for everyone involved. It is, Zilax admitted. And something in his voice suggested this wasn't just academic observation. Juvenile mortality rates are high. Stress-related developmental disorders are common. We've always attributed it to their aggressive nature, their predatory biology. He stared at the sleeping cub. No one ever considered they might just be overstimulated and exhausted. Vexia lowered her weapon completely for the first time since entering. You're suggesting that the entire galaxy has been handling Vorshock juveniles incorrectly. I'm not suggesting anything, Emma said. I'm just sitting here grading essays while a tired kid takes a nap on my desk. She smiled. You guys are the ones making it complicated. The cub shifted slightly, nuzzling against Emma's wrist where it rested near the papers. Its claws, capable of shredding reinforced armor, remained fully retracted, its dangerous jaws relaxed in sleep. Kyle Thus watched his entire career's worth of research become irrelevant in real time. We need to document this, every detail. If humans can interact safely with Vorshock juveniles using simple compassion protocols, the implications are galactic. Zilax finished numbly. The final arrival came with considerably less dramatic flair than the others. Zathor, warrior caste and parent to the sleeping cub, entered the office with the controlled movements of someone expecting to find carnage. Her 4 eyes scanned the room rapidly, tactical assessment mode in full effect, her body coiled for immediate combat response. Then she saw her offspring, curled peacefully on the human's desk, snoring softly. Zathor's combat stance dissolved into something Kael'thas had never seen in a Vorshock warrior, complete bewilderment. How is offspring content? The words came out halting, as if her translator was struggling with the concept. Oh, you must be his parent. Emma looked up with genuine warmth. He's doing great. Just needed some downtime, I think. Downtime, Zathor repeated, moving closer with almost reverent caution. Offspring does not have downtime. Offspring has training protocols, threat assessment exercises, survival conditioning. Yeah, that sounds exhausting. Emma interrupted gently. He was really overwhelmed when he got here. Probably overstimulated. definitely stressed. He just needed a quiet space and somebody calm around him. She smiled at the sleeping cub. Kids are like that sometimes, you know? They need breaks. Zathor's crest rippled through several colors Kael'thas couldn't identify. We raise juveniles in constant readiness protocols. Galaxy is dangerous. They must be prepared, must be vigilant, must be... She stopped, staring at her peacefully sleeping child. We never considered they might be tired. Well, he definitely was, Emma said matter-of-factly. You could see it in how he was moving, all that tension, the hyper-awareness, the way he was startling at every little sound. Classic signs of a stressed-out kid who hasn't had proper rest in way too long. Zilak stepped forward, his voice careful. Zathor, the human achieved this state using what she calls basic tired creature management. No sedation, no containment fields, simply calmness and patience. The cub began to stir, its purring shifting to a softer pitch. One eye opened, then the other. It stretched luxuriously, claws extending briefly before retracting again. Then it looked at Emma and made a soft chirping sound that made Zathor's eyes widen even further. That is contentment vocalization, the warrior caste parent whispered. Offspring has never made that sound. The cub hopped down from the desk with considerably more grace than it had shown entering, wandering over to Zathor. But instead of the aggressive energy that typically characterized juvenile parent interactions, the cub simply pressed against its parent's leg and continued its soft chirping. Zathor looked at Emma with an expression that transcended species barriers. Pure parental confusion mixed with desperate hope. How did you do this? What technique? What protocols? Emma set down her pen and smiled. I just treated him like a kid who needed a break. Kept my voice calm, let him make his own choices about proximity, didn't make any sudden movements or loud noises. Created a space where he could feel safe enough to actually rest. She paused. Is that not normal for you guys? No, Zathor said quietly, reaching down to touch her offspring with a gentleness that seemed at odds with her warrior bearing. It is not normal. But perhaps... She looked at Zelax, then at Kael'thas. Perhaps it should be. Zathor was already pulling up her communicator before leaving. I am requesting formal human consultation on Vorshock juvenile care protocols. Our matriarchs must see this footage. Our entire approach to offspring rearing. She stopped, looking at her calmly chirping child. Everything must be reviewed. I'm happy to help, Emma said, but I should mention I'm just a TA. I mostly grade papers and help students who forget how mitosis works. You accomplished what warrior caste specialists could not, Zathor said firmly. Your expertise is required. Kael'thas was already updating his datapad, his hands moving automatically even as his mind reeled. The entire xenobiology curriculum needs revision. Humans apply parenting instincts universally across species barriers. This represents a fundamental capability we never documented. Vexia was speaking rapidly into her communicator. Yes, Admiral. Recommending immediate protocol amendment. Human judgment on juvenile predator species may supersede standard containment procedures. No, sir, I am not malfunctioning. Yes, sir, I watched it happen personally. Emma picked up her pen and turned to her last essay. Well, this has been exciting, but I really do need to finish these before... She stopped, staring at her desk, where a small pile of regurgitated prey sat carefully placed on top of the final ungraded paper. Oh, highest honor, Zathor said, her voice thick with emotion. Offspring shares food only with trusted family. Emma laughed, a warm, genuine sound that made the cub chirp happily from its parent's side. Well, that's definitely going in my teaching portfolio under unexpected achievements. She carefully moved the gift aside with a tissue. Also, maybe under reasons to carry hand sanitizer. She glanced at the chronometer on her wall. I've got office hours in 10 minutes. Should probably air out the room a bit first. Kyle Thas felt something close to panic. Perhaps no deadly species this time? Emma grinned at him as she opened a window. Can't make any promises, Professor. Students bring all kinds of stuff to office hours. Last week, someone brought their emotional support slime mold. Never know what's going to wander through that door. 3 hours later, the story hit interstellar news networks. Human treats galaxy's deadliest juvenile like tired toddler. It worked. By the next morning, the Galactic Council had quietly commissioned a comprehensive review of juvenile care protocols across 47 different predator species. The Vorshock matriarchy declared an unprecedented emergency session to reconsider centuries of child-rearing tradition. Xenobiology departments across 12 systems scrambled to update their textbooks. And Emma Johnson, completely unaware that she'd just altered galactic childcare policy, sat in her office helping a nervous freshman understand basic chemistry homework, occasionally glancing at the thank you gift she'd sealed in a specimen container. So, ionic bonds, she was explaining patiently, are kind of like when two atoms realize they're better together than apart. Her student nodded, taking notes, while outside her office door, a new sign had appeared, placed by campus security. Warning: human applying unorthodox protocols. Approach with open mind. Previous species-specific threat assessments may not apply. Emma saw it later and laughed for a solid 5 minutes.